My name is Gerald Chambers, and this is Recovery News. Today, we're interviewing marriage and family therapist Gerald Chambers. I recently read an article, and it was about 7 complaints that women discuss with their therapists about their partners. And we'd like to ask you, Mr. Chambers, to give us your thoughts on these complaints that women have. So complaint number 1, he never asks how I'm doing. Well, thank you for having me, Gerald. Yeah, so a lot of times women do complain that their men never ask how they're doing. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I guess a couple of reasons that I'd like to bring up. One is a lot of times men are unaware of how they're doing emotionally. And any conversation about their emotional life or how they're doing could bring up shame. And shame is very hard to work with, talk about that kind of stuff. Even if a woman is not doing okay, then men take a lot of responsibility for that and personalize that. And so it can be difficult for men to talk about or ask a woman how she's doing. Not all men, but some men. Complaint number 2, I have to handle everything. Some men feel like they have to handle everything in relationships, but a lot of times women, Campbell Soup did a survey recently where they surveyed women, families with children 0 to 18. I think it was 2,600 families. And they found out that women did 2.5 times more work than men in the household. So it's very easy for a woman to feel like she has to do everything. And a lot of times men are passively responsible in the house. I mean, they're in the house, they're present. They might see something is wrong, but have to be told what to do. And that can be pretty challenging for both the men and the woman, because the woman feels like she's got to tell the man everything that he needs to do, and then the man feels like she's nagging. And so sometimes it takes an intervention or a man entering into therapy or some other form of help to get the difference between active and passive responsibility. Complaint number 3, he always wants to fix, but is rarely willing to listen. Yeah, men do like fixing stuff. We sort of evolved to fix problems, hunt for game and fix problems, not to talk too much. Because as hunters and gatherers, if we were out hunting, if we made a lot of noise, we'd scare off the game. Women, on the other hand, back at the base camp, taking care of children, rounding up nuts and berries and other resources that the family would basically live off of until we could find some protein, evolved talking and coordinating more than men in that way, communicating differently than men. Solve problems. We identify threats and we want to eliminate threats as quickly as possible. And so we kind of evolve that way. And then we get penalized for it in a relationship that we don't listen and I think men can listen. I think we have to learn how to do that. Like I said, I think we have to be taught a lot of times how to do that. We're only as good in relationships as the relationships we've been in. And so maybe a lot of times people don't listen to men, so we get in our relationships not understanding how important listening is. Complaint number 4, he's not emotionally present. That's a big one. I think it takes an intervention for a man, for most men, to get in touch with their feelings. It's not a high priority placed on a man's feelings in our society. We're socialized to, not talk about feelings, be the strong, silent types. And as a result, often we don't know how we feel. We're not in touch with how we really feel, or we're so interested in avoiding conflict with the partner that we don't really want to talk about how we feel. We might be nursing some resentments or some ill feelings or agreeing to things that we don't really want to agree with. And as men, a lot of times we don't talk about that stuff. We don't feel safe to talk about that in a relationship, or we've had bad experiences talking about our feelings in relationships. So I I can understand women feeling sometimes like men are not in touch. We don't really get a lot of support for being in touch with our feelings, and then we're asked to get into an intimate relationship, and we sort of sometimes we feel betrayed because prior to getting into that relationship, it may have been important for me to be in touch with my feelings, but society didn't place any emphasis on it, and then I'm asked to do the exact opposite in an intimate relationship. So it can be tough. But I think when men do come into therapy or talk to other men, we do quite well talking about feelings and getting in touch with who we really are and how we feel and what we want. And many men, survive not being in touch with their feelings by outsourcing their emotional life. Outsourcing it to women, outsourcing it to some activity, gambling, work, taking care of their emotional life through doing rather than being, through fixing things, through acquiring, setting goals and acquiring goals and all that sort of stuff to take care of how we really feel. We express it in a little bit different way. Complaint number 5. He's always looking at his phone. Well, yeah. I mean, there's 1,000 people on the other side of the phone trying to get me or other men to look at our phones. It's a good way to distract myself. It's a good way to disengage. It's in many ways, it's a socially acceptable way to withdraw from my life and my relationship. That phone is a whole, there's a lot of computing power in it. I can do a whole bunch of things, including ignoring the people around me. So the phone is designed to get me to look at it. And a lot of times men and women too don't recognize the damage that the phone is doing in the relationship. I wish I had $1 for every inquiry I get from someone who has discovered an affair on the phone or some illicit activity on the phone, or who is having trouble avoiding doing something connected to the phone, like looking at porn or shopping. A lot of compulsive behaviors attached to that phone. And it's designed to be that way. People are trying to steal our attention. Complaint number 6. He's only nice when he wants sex. Yeah, well, that's a problem, depending on how you look at it. Like some men determine the health of the relationship through the sex, right? If I'm having sex, the relationship is okay. If I'm not having sex, something is wrong in the relationship. Sex becomes important. It's a way to connect us to the other person. It's not the only way, but men are socialized to put a lot of value in their sexual ability and how much sex they're having. And a lot of times they're rewarded for that kind of behavior. Right? If I'm only nice to you when I want sex, and I'm nice to you and we have sex, that's instantly reinforcing. So in a way, men have been trained to only be nice when we want sex. And so it's something that we need to talk about and explore. And complaints are really interesting. If I'm not too defensive, the complaint will really tell me things about my relationship. And if I'm curious, I can really learn the most important things I need to do in order to strengthen the relationship. So the complaint, I got to improve my customer service. As a man, when my partner complains about something, she really is doing me a favor. Because when she stops complaining, it typically means that she's checked out and that the relationship is about to come to an end. So if she's complaining about something, if I am in touch with my feelings, I can feel that complaint in a way that is not overly reactive, and I don't drive her away, and I can keep my relationship together if I actually follow through on what the complaint is and fix it. And so, yeah, I need to learn we need to learn how to be kind to women at other times other than when we just want something from them. Complaint number 7. He's an overgrown kid, right? So this can go back to the issue of passive responsibility. If I'm in the house and I have to be told everything to do, then that means I'm acting almost like another child as far as my partner is concerned, as far as my wife is concerned. And so one of the ways that you make the transition from adolescence or childhood to adulthood is to take responsibility for your emotional life. And when I do that, I can still act like a kid, but I have a whole lot, a much greater range of emotional and physical ability as a result of taking care of my emotional life. I can function in a lot of different ways because I can still have a lot of fun in my relationship with my wife, but there are times when I need to grow up and I need to really act like an adult. And acting like an adult in this sense means that I can connect with my wife or my partner emotionally. I can be supportive to her. She can turn to me. I can talk about my feelings. I can recognize her feelings, and we can have that kind of conversation, which is so nourishing in a long-term stable relationship. We have to have it. That can really make a relationship more satisfying. And we don't have to eliminate play, but we can't play all the time. So yeah, thank you for having me, Gerald. I really appreciate it.